very good evening, Zimbabwe. Welcome to Live Talk. We're coming to you live from Studio 7 at the Voice of America in Washington. This is the Women's Roundtable, where we speak about issues affecting women. We are here at the Voice of America this Thursday, June the 8th, 2023. I'm your host, Marvelous Mhlanganyahuye. And tonight we are talking about the decision by the South African government to extend the Zimbabwe exemption permits by 6 months. This means that holders of permits can stay legally in South Africa until December 31st. The South African government had previously set the deadline for expiration on June the 30th. Zimbabweans are expected to regularize their status in South Africa or face deportation after December 31st this year. Over 178,000 Zimbabweans in South Africa are holders of the exemption permits, and some of them have applied and are still waiting for responses from the Department of Home Affairs about their applications for waivers and new visas filed in the past few months. The extension comes at a time when various rights groups have taken the matter to court, challenging the decision to deport expired permit holders. The matter is still before the courts. Zimbabweans in South Africa have reacted differently to the news of the extension, with some saying although they are relieved, they would still want to get a more permanent solution like 5-year stays. A Zimbabwean woman who did not want to be named, who spoke to our Studio 7 reporter Thuso Khumalo in South Africa, had this to say.
We're happy because it's not easy to pick up your life again and go restart again. And as you know, in our country, things are not stable, jobs are not there.
That there was a Zimbabwean woman who did not want to be named, speaking to our reporter Thuso Khumalo in South Africa. Khumalo also spoke to Loveness Vundle, a ZEP holder. Let's hear what she had to say. That there was Loveness Vundle, a ZEP holder, speaking to Thuso Khumalo. Another ZEP holder, Chakanaka Mangena, told Thuso he was happy that he can now move freely without fearing the police until December.
Tikuvara kuti hurumende muSouth Africa yatipa mukana wekuti tigone kugara panapa kusvika kuna December tisingamhanyisani nemapurisa, nekuti izvo zvinotipawo mukana wekuti tigonewo kutsvagirawo hama dzedu dzatakasiya kuZimbabwe nevana vadiki vari kuzvikoro kuZimbabwe chekurarama nechekutiwo vagonewo kubhadhara kuzvikoro, nesuwo mhuri dzedu dziri panapa muSouth Africa togonawo kudzichengeta kunosvikawo muna December tisingamhanyisani nemapurisa.
That there was another ZEP holder, Chakanaka Mangena. Another ZEP holder, Nomvula Ndlovu, also gave her views on the extension.
Besingekho ready khona ngoba kade singakafuna ukuhamba, but besizijothe uma kwenzakala sizoyamkela, kodwa sesijabulela nje ukuthi at least mama permit ukuthi asi-extend, sijabulela khona ukuthi.
That there was ZEP holder Nomvula Ndlovu giving her views on the extension. Vachitaura vari muSouth Africa, Amai Lucia Homo vanoti shuviro yavo ndeyekuti nyika yeSouth Africa iwedzere makore kwete mwedzi yekuti zvizvarwa zveZimbabwe zvigare munyika iyi. Let's hear what she had to say.
Kushomeka kwemabasa kuri kutishungurudza nekuti ukariwana basa remurungu anoda kuti ndikutori pabasa rangu uya neproof kuti wakaapplya permit wotaridza murongo slip wotadza kuti wakamira chipemiti apa hazvisi kubuda mawevha acho ari kudzi vanhu vaaplayiwawo haasi kubuda only a few less than 10 vakawana mawevha and it's very hard kunowana kuwana general work permit munomu zvichatonetsa like nini hangu handishandi handikwanisi kuwana kana mari kutenga yekubhadhara wevha yekinditire wevha yacho handishandi ndakangogara saka tingona matodai mwari wangopindirawo takwanisa kugara tawedzeka makore 3 kana 4 tomboshanda totsvaga basa toriwana 4 ndorongedzawo ndoenda kumusha ndakakandira zukuru wangu 2 kategea vanochengetwa nekazeni sitai kuzimbabwe ticha ikoko fukuchi ticha chana chari kutambira indefa ushanda kunondowana something tumira zukuru wangu mablanketi echando kwakutonhora ndawo chikafu anda kuita zukuru wangu auti handisati ndawana basa saka tingona matodai mwari vapindira hurumende muSouth Africa vatipawo makore 3 kana 4 ndinoriwana basa ndoshandira mhuri yangu by so after 4 years aiwa unoendawo kumusha zvinenge zvaringana iko zvino is too early wevha dzacho hadzisi kubuda hapana ataona kana pemiti hapana.
Avo vanga vari amai Lucia Homu vachitaura vari muSouth Africa nemutori wedu wenhau Shingirai Madondo. Cebisi Ndlovu, a youth in South Africa, also welcomed the extension. Let's hear what he had to say.
nathi singabaphoqa sisebenze njengabantu nje kahle akusonkinga labe sifise naso nje sisebenze siphile labo labe sincediseke ngoba kunzima ekhaya eZimbabwe ngeke sikhona.
Auton Ndebele also thanked the South African government for extending the permits. Let's hear what he had to say.
Yo Mr. Mina ngesingami ngiyabonga kakhulu i-government ethe yasizwela as-extend ama-permit because lathi sibesibhekele ukuthi elizweni South Africa yikho lapho esiphanda khona njengoba siphuma ezweni laseZimbabwe elingena mkhono omuhle sibhekele ingane zethu zingenza mase lapha sizama ukuzophandela ingane zethu because sizama ukuthi ingane zingene isikolo so ngendlela leyo mina ngam happy kakhulu ngithi maybe if kunjalo i-government isivumele isitholile nje incwadi nje zokuthi sikhona ukusebenza lapha eSouth Africa.
That there was Auton Ndebele in South Africa giving his view. Let us now take a short break. Please stay tuned, don't go away. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
For those that have just joined us, please note that we are streaming live on all our Facebook pages, VOA Shona, VOA Studio 7, and VOA Ndebele. And we're also live on YouTube at VOA Zimbabwe. And to discuss this issue of the extension of the Zimbabwe exemption permits, we are joined by Diana Zimbabweans Chambara, the programs manager for the Zimbabwe Exiles Forum based in South Africa, and Dr. Vusimuzi Sibanda of the African Diaspora Global Network, also based in South Africa. Welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much for the invite.
Hello, Mr. Sibanda.
Hi, good evening, and thank you very much for the invite.
Yes, I will start off with the lady, Diana Zimbabweans. What's your take on what we have just seen happening in South Africa?
It's a move that's to be lauded, but our fear and sentiment is that it's a too short a period, 6 months period to then. I mean, people who are already in a limbo will continue being in the limbo. So it would have been better or wiser yet the minister given people more time, probably an extra 1.5 years, so that then whatever needs to be concluded could be concluded within that space of time. But if we look at it now, it's just 6 more months, and then that's it. We don't know now whether that will be it, or there will be another renewal. So there's also now a fear of the unknown and the unexpected as well in the mix.
Thank you very much. I will now go back to you, Mr. Sibanda. You have been in this issue and you have been following, and there is a court case. What's the position at the moment regarding this extension? How are people receiving the extension?
Well, look, the people of Zimbabwe have suffered a lot. And because of that suffering, they are happy to receive whatever little that they can receive. But realistically speaking, this is an abuse, of the rights of people that are vulnerable and people that are being, that have been thrown out of their country because of, issues that were beyond their control in their country. And now they find themselves in a constitutional democracy where their rights should be upheld and where the Constitution does provide some form of protection. But we see what the Minister of Home Affairs is doing is that he is continuously, abusing, these people and prodding down upon their rights, in the sense that this is a third extension of 6 months. I mean, this is a third extension, and the first one being 12 months, then the second being 6, and this being 6. Now, no one can live a life in piecemeal. It actually, comes to assume that ZEP holders cannot plan for their lives. They are living at the mercy, of the department that says, they can live for 6 months. They don't know, what's going to happen after 6 months, how their children will continue to go to school when they have made a life in South Africa and legitimately expect to continue staying here, and that is not being taken, into consideration.
So from your view, what should Zimbabweans be doing now as they await these 6 months up until December? Those that do not have any waiver or any extension, what do they do?
Well, look, the waiver itself is actually, it's a criminal, action by government again, in the sense that when you look at the waiver seeks to imply that, the very same exemption permit that were given and with requirements waived is going to be issued again, which is highly improbable, because you cannot scrap, the ZEP, which is a waived, visa, and then say you want to bring in, another visa where people are going to request for visas. And remember, people pay about 1,550 rands when they apply for these waivers. And when again they want to apply for the visa itself, they again, are going to have to pay another, visa facilitation fee. So you can see that the government is actually asking people to do, waivers, a small piece of paper to say, okay, we have waived this, but there is no guarantee that those visas are going to be issued. And if in any way the visas or the permits are issued, they will be issued for what duration of period of time. And it's actually going to cause a bigger outcry, because then the South Africans will also say, but wait a minute, you said you were discontinuing the ZEP, but this creature that you are bringing is similar to the ZEP. So the government needs to be very decisive about what it is doing, and that decisiveness must be based, in the constitution of the country, in the laws of the country, which basically allows a person who has lived in a country for a period post 5 years to acquire permanent residence. It doesn't matter that it has been piecemeal, but it is beyond, the 5-year period. And in terms of the interpretation of statutes, there is no way that, the ZTP holders should not get permanent residence, rather than the abuse that they are currently, receiving now.
Tombodzoka kwamuri amai Zimbudzana, tinoona kuti madzimai nyanya ndo vamwe vanga vari kuchema vachiti zvinhu zvakatiomera pari zvino. Zvii zvamuri kunzwa zvichemo zviri kunyanyobva kumadzimai vakatarisa zviri kuitika panyaya iyi yemapepa?
Zvichemo zvikuru ndizvozvo zvekuti iye zvinozvi kumusha kuZimbabwe kwakatarisana nesarodzoka. Zvakatarisana nesarodzo kudai vanhu vanga vakufunga kuti zvino kana tikanzi titakure mikwende yedu takadzokera kumusha kune sarodzo, tinonokwanisa kunogara sei, tichizvimirira sei, uye mari yokumusha yacho haichina chaichatenga. vanhu vanenge vabvawo kunoku vasina kana chouviri vonobatana nei. Saka kumadzimai zvinenge zvichivashungurudza zvikuru sei nekuti ndo vanenge vachitarisa vana, vachitarisa mhuri, vachitarisa kuti kwadyirwa here, vana vaenda kuchikoro here. Saka zvinhu izvozvo zvinoita kuti zvinyanye kuvashungurudza zvakanyanya pamwoyo.
Rambai makabata zvenyu ipapo. Tina kola aripo. Hello kola, how are you? Kola, hello. Kola muri kutinzwa here? I'm not sure if our caller can hear us. Hello caller. I will now switch over to Mr. Sibanda. I think there's something wrong with the caller's line. We can't hear the caller. Hello caller. Mr. Sibanda, I just asked a question to Amai Zimbudzana about what kind of issues people are facing. If you could tell us in Ndebele, what are some of the issues that are people facing and coming to you to say, hey, how can we overcome this as we await the 6 months?
Abantu abaningi uma sibhekile bayaxoshwa emsebenzini. Namhlanje nje bengithola ucingo olokuthi umuntu osebenzela inkampani ethize enkulu kakhulu bamtshela ukuthi kabakwazi ukuqhubeka naye emsebenzini ngoba i-permit yakhe isiphelele. Kanti ke lo muntu uyabuza ke manje ukuthi angenza kanjani lokho ngoba phela usethola incwadi ethi i-permit le i-extend. Akusiye yedwa lowo muntu. Sinabantu abaningi, abanye baxakwe ukuthi bafuna ukuthola imali zabo ze-UIF. Abanye abaningi bayayeka nale misebenzi besesaba ukuthi uma bangalinda unqamla juqu lo okuphelela bazothi masokuthiwa phumani babe bengayitholanga imali yabo. So kunabantu abaningi abahamba emsebenzini bayobeka isicelo sokuthi ngabashiya umsebenzi ukuze bathole imali zabo ezinjengama pension fund nama provident fund. Kodwa kusenjalo lezi imali kaziphumi ngoba kuzothiwa akuphinde kuyocelwa ku Home Affairs ukuthi banikezwe incwadi ezikhomba ukuthi balapho kusemthethweni. Okwenza njalo ukuthi lokhu sikuthi lokhu kuhlehlele emuva. Abantu kabasakwazi nokuthi impilo zabo bazihlela njani. Sebedlele evalweni insuku zonke ngoba imisebenzi yaphela, amabhenki avala ama-account, ngabakwazi ukwenza izicelo zezimali, ngabakwazi ukuvula ama-account. Sebephila nje njengabantu abasendleleni abahlala bephethe imchaqanga.
Maybe if you can just tell us that again in English, what are some of the issues that are people facing now and how can these issues be resolved in the next 6 months?
Well, look, as I was just saying, today I just received a call from a gentleman who works for a relatively big company.
Yeah.
And his issue is that he's just got axed or fired because his employer said he cannot keep him, working for the company because he would be arrested, he would be violating, labor laws. When he's a ZTP holder, simply because companies were told that these visas are expiring on the 30th of June. And a lot of employers are taking advantage of that and firing people and knowing that within the 6 months period, they might not even be able to pursue the matter at the CCMA or even the labor court and get their money. But ultimately that they may be ejected out of the country and they won't have to pay them or compensate them for anything. So you've got people that are also resigning from work because they are hoping that they might be able to get, their provident fund, their pension fund. And again, some are so afraid of resigning because if you were contributing towards the unemployment insurance fund, if you resign, then you forfeit that money, that contribution. So you've got people that are living on an ad hoc, piecemeal basis that do not even know how to resolve the problems that they are faced with.
So bearing that in mind, please stay on the line. I understand we have a caller. Hello, caller Makadi and you? Tiriwadi, Truktaura Nani Murukupi. Caller Tauri Saitinzwe. All right, Tauri Tinzwe from what's in I'm sorry, this is a very bad line. Sorry, caller, we can't hear you. But but I'm sorry, we can't hear you. So we'll go to Amai Zimbudzana. Amai Zimbudzana manzwa zviri kutaurwa navasibanda kuti pane vamwe zvakare vashandirwi vari kutora advantage yenyaya iyi ye6 months. Zvii zvamuri kunzwawo kubva kunyanya kubva kumadzimai vakatarisana ne6 months dzavapiwa idzi?
Ndizvozvo chaizvo, vashandirwi vazhinji vanobva kwete vese asi vamwe vanobva vatora mukana iwoyo kuti regai nditi vanhu havaende zvavo ndisina chandinovapa, vanozongowanda nomunhu wokuti mapemiti enyu ari kuexpire. Ndo izvozvo zvandiri kuti ndiri kubvumirana navasivanda kuti handiti munoona zvaitwa naminista, kuti minista ari kupa zvidimbu zvava zvinonetsera kuti mushandirwi haagoni kuronga nezvidimbu, haagoni kuronga zvinhu zvenguva yakareba nezvidimbu zvenguva iyoyi nezvidimbu zvakadai, uye mushandi chaiye haagoniwo kuronga nenguva yanenge apiwa iyeyi, nekuti iye zvino unotanga kufunga pane vamwe vane vana vanenge vaida kuzopinda kuzvikoro kugore rinouya, ofunga kuti saka mwana ndomuregera here ari muno, kana kuti ndoti vana ngavasumuke vaende vanofanira kugadzirira zvekuzimbabwe, kana kuti tobuda toenda kune imwe nyika. Saka munoona kuti hazvinyatsi kuita, especially kunana mai, nekuti unenge uchida kunge une nguva yakareba yekuti uite urongwa hwako, asi kana uchipiwa udimbu hwakadai urongwa hwacho unohuita sei uye nenzira iyi.
Tiri ipapo, saka zvii zvamungakurudzirawo mamwe madzimai nyanya kuti vaite panguva pa6 months dzavapiwa idzi?
Isusu zvatakakurudzira hatisi kuzochinja, hatina kushanduka kubvira pakatanga kupiwa gore rekutanga. Takakurudzira vanhu vanokwanisa kuti itai zviri kutaurwa naminista, kana muri kuona zvakaringana maringe ekuti mugare muno muSouth Africa, itai zviri kutaurwa naminista, muapply moita mapemiti. Kune vanokwanisa, vanoona kuti South Africa haichaiti, haisina kuringana, tinokurudzirawo kuti aiwazve haungarambi uchishuzhira pamusha womunhu achikutaurira kuti imi mangu mudura hamusina chinhu, kutsvaka dura riri nani unoshuzhira kumwe, kana kuti wodzokera kwako kumusha unoona kuti wako munda warima here. Uyezve pari zvino chekupedzisira tinokurudzira kuti vanhu ngavachironga vachiziva kuti iye zvinezvi munomu macho kana watofunga waakuda kushingirira kuti urambe uripo, wotoziva kuti uchashingirira asi unenge uchiti rimwe gumbo riri kuno, rimwe gumbo rakatarisa kumusha kuZimbabwe, nekuti hapana zvichazikanwa kuti minista mangwana anomuka achiti kudii. Pamwe anogona kuti musi wa31 wacho uchisvika 31 December budai nese, kana kuti anogona kumuka achiti aiwa taakugadzirisa zvete awedzera ine 6 months. Saka zvaakuda kuti vanhu vanyatsofunga neudzamu kuti vanoda kuita zvipi zvacho voita izvozvo.
Let me come back to you, Dr. Vusimusi Sibanda. We see that there are also some court cases that are still pending. Are these going to work for the people that are actually saying they would like the extension to be longer, or if so, how?
Well, look, the purpose of the court case really, and what people are hoping for, is basically that, the courts could actually set aside that decision, to not grant a more permanent kind of permit because, they have accrued the right. So, people do want an extension, but more so, we are talking about people that are so disadvantaged to such an extent that now they're just willing to get anything to remain in South Africa rather than go out of South Africa because they cannot make any livelihood, in Zimbabwe, considering how bad things have become, from the time that they left the country up to where, we are today. So these short extensions are not really, workable. They're not making people's lives any better. But the more ideal situation is a lawful situation where the rights, of the ZTP holders are upheld in the sense that they have lived in South Africa for in excess of 13 years. And some of them were even asylum seekers whose asylum permits were not adjudicated upon because they were moved overnight from asylum, to the, DZP, which did not guarantee them the permanence that they would have gotten from the, asylum seeker documents that they had. Because remember, if they continued with asylum seeker, a lot of them would have acquired, citizenship now through the refugee, system. So it's unfortunate that, when we discuss this and because of the brevity or the shortness of time, it is not really possible to go into details and look at the unfairness, at the inhumanness, at the cruelty that lies behind the decision not to extend, the ZTP documents, considering the classes and groups of people that are affected by this decision.
Please stay on the line. I understand we have a caller. Hello, caller. Hello, caller. I think there's something wrong with our lines here today because I cannot hear the caller. Hello, caller. Thank you so much, caller, but we can't hear you. Hello, caller. I'm sorry, we can't hear you. Mai Zimbudzana todzoka zvakare kwamuri. We're going to go back to Mai Zimbudzana. The callers, I think there's something wrong with the line today. So we'll stay with our guest, Mai Zimbudzana. You just heard there Mr. Sibanda talking about how unfair what is going on regarding this extension and also the issues, pertaining to how we got to this situation. So moving forward, what's your take?
No, I think South Africa needs to come up with a proper position to say this is done, this is it. Because then to us it gives the impression that the minister is probably afraid of the decision of the court, because he's thinking the decision of the court might not go with what he is expecting. He would rather therefore preempt it and award and give this 6-month extension. But to the employer and to the employee, it doesn't work. Because how do people plan? People need to plan long term or even medium term. Because in this case, it's 6 months is just too short a period to plan for anything. So South Africa needs to take a proper position, and then we both sides then start dealing with that proper position.
Tomboona zvakare kuti nyika yakatarisana nesarudzo iro gore rino muna Nyamavhuvhu kana kuti August 23. Zvaitika izvi zvingakanganisa here vamwe vanga vada kudzokera kumusha kuti vanovhota?
Vanga vakagara vakaronga kuti vanoda kunovhota, handioni zvichikanganisa. In fact, zvakatonaka nekuti vanenge vachifamba zvakanaka kava kana vanobuda vachipinda munyika vachibvumidzwa kudzoka kuno kuSouth Africa. Saka hazvinyanye kukanganisa. Zvingatokanganise maybe kuna vanga vatopeka mukwende yavo vachiti vakuda kudzokera, kuti vanoti zvinonha ndambopiwa dzimwe 6 months regai ndimboshushuvira ndirimo ndozoenda hangu kana 6 months idzodzo dzapfuura.
I'll give that same question to you, Dr. Vusimuzi Sibanda, regarding that, Zimbabwe is looking at elections on August 23rd. How does this extension affect those that had already left saying, end of June, I won't have any papers, if they wanted to go and vote?
Well, those that wanted to vote, obviously, the likelihood, if they managed to register, obviously they would. But the problem, like we have said, is that these are people that already are living on a piecemeal basis. So those that have left, that made the decision to left, and they've managed to register to vote, good and well. But I think the saddest part of this whole thing is that, is there a likelihood that, if they go and vote in Zimbabwe, that is going to change and their lives are not going to be in danger? Because you see, we are so hopeful that we can see significant change as a result of elections taking place in Zimbabwe. But we can never be oblivious of the fact that we know that the government of Mr. Mnangagwa will not accept any defeat, and that will be a cold day in hell if that happens. Otherwise, we are all confident and sure that should, they lose, as it is always purported, we have seen that they've lost, they would rather obliterate the whole country. And there's no one who's coming to the aid of the Zimbabweans. So it is unfortunate that those that might actually go to vote, they might also, find themselves, under the hammer come the 23rd of August, and thereafter when, push comes to shove. Because
thank you. Thank you there. Thank you so much. And that brings us to the end of our show. Would like to thank all our guests. We had there Dr. Vusimuzi Sibanda. We had also Diana Zimbudzana Chambara. And you, of course, our listeners at home, signing off from in Washington. I'm Marvelous Mhlanga Nyahuye saying have a very good night.